edition of Legally Insane. I'm your host, Matt Ritter. With me, as always,
Tony Sam.
What's up, Tony Sam?
Oh, you know, dude, just living that high life, drinking beer.
We are drinking today. Listen. Clink.
Yeah.
Are we doing this just to impress the camera people? Yeah, there's a TV
Every
show
week
recording
we get
us.
sloshed.
That's probably what people think. Actually, I don't want them to think that we're only funny because we're
drinking wine coolers, taking our shirts off,
spritzers,
learning a little history,
little law. So I'm a real lawyer, or was.
He was.
I was. That's what this show is about. I'm a lawyer.
I am not. Never have been.
Yeah. So I try to break out some legal knowledge, drop some knowledge on Tony, and
you're gonna get dropped on.
Oh,
he drops a knowledge deuce on us every week.
It is a deuce.
It's
a deuce. Today's a deuce.
Oh, it was
not like what you're thinking, but it's the number 2.
It's duty laws.
It's the number 2.
It's all laws about duty.
Yeah, you cannot smear. You have to watch.
Did you know that it's illegal to take a anywhere you want?
What?
Would you believe?
What state are you talking about?
Dating back to ancient Egyptian times, people frowned upon defecating in public spaces.
Only when there were women around.
Oh.
Yeah. No, if it was all dudes, you could just dude. I hate guys who like you can hear them in the other stall judging you when you're like.
Wait, what do you keep the stall door open?
Always, saloon doors.
Hey, check this out. I'm doing it in here. Slosh. Plunk.
I'm always like, hey, you want to see this? I take a picture and I slide my cell phone under the door.
Of what's in the bowl? Yeah, you do. Of course you do. No, you do the toe touch. You touch your foot.
I'm not a Minnesota congressman.
Yeah.
Hey, congressman.
Like, that's how you get there. Hey,
congressman.
Hey, you want to see my shit?
Lou, I'm talking about the number 2 because it's the most controversial 27 words in the Constitution are in a little thing called the Second Amendment.
Now, is that a part of the Bill of Rights?
You know him? You heard about it?
I heard about that.
You heard about it?
Very problematic for my lifestyle.
It's problematic. I don't need any bills. I don't have enough bills.
I got enough bills. Every time I open the mail, it's bills. Everybody wants a piece of me.
My wife, she's like, hey, check out this Bill of Rights.
My wife. No. Oh, yeah, we're going to do that all show? Oh. Because it's still hot and fresh.
I mean, come on, we're recording this.
It still scores a 10 on the comedy Richter scale. My wife.
We've recorded this in 2005, just so we're clear.
Oh, yeah.
So it doesn't
comedy
seem like
time machine.
Hey, guys. Curb Your Enthusiasm's back on, so it kind of is.
I watched it. I wasn't happy.
I haven't seen it yet. Anyway, Second Amendment.
Good thing you brought it up.
Second Amendment. We're talking about Second Amendment today.
Stay on target.
Stay on target.
I think it was like the first Star Wars. Red leader, stay on target.
Stay on target.
Stay on target.
He's talking about Curb.
You're a Porky Baggins. What's that guy's name from? Did you know that?
Jar Jar Binks?
No, there's a fat pilot in the first Star Wars.
Oh, he was like an unnamed character?
It's like Fat Porkins or
Is
something.
Is that really his name? And he became a cult
like
icon?
That. It's like
I was
Red
in an Uber
Porkins.
today with this woman who was, she had these Star Wars like stickers on her car. It was weird. She asked me if I was for the Rebels or for the Death Star. And you know what I said to her? I go, people are complex.
I said, why don't you shut your mouth and take me to my destination?
That's what I said to her.
Shut your fuck up. Oh, that's weird. I don't see that on the Google Maps app I don't see that question anywhere on there. Shut up.
I didn't know this was going to be surveys. So you know what
survey says?
27 words in the Second Amendment are.
You have the right to bear arms, to assemble for a militia, and to due process.
Should I look at it or should I try and do it?
Oh, no, yeah, I want you to tell me what it is. You're a lawyer.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
So you have to memorize all of those.
You don't have to, but it's kind of nice when you can rattle them off.
When you ejaculate, you spout off. Which amendment do you spout off? Which one is the one when you...
it's the fourth.
Thou shalt not deprive me of the right to bear arms.
I'll tell you why it's the fourth, because my wife, she likes to give me the shocker. So I always like to say, I like to talk about unreasonable search and seizure.
What's it for you? It's like it's 2 in your stink and
1 in your car and glove compartment where you can't.
3 in a drink.
You can't.
2 in your stink and 3 in a drink.
Not in the glove compartment of the trunk. Those are both locked.
Oh, no.
They're locked. Sealed.
Matt Pfister.
They're sealed. Sealed. No, I do come to
with a kiss.
I do come to the fourth. I plead the fifth.
I played the fifth.
Against self-incrimination. If she's like, did you already ejaculate? I plead the fifth.
Anyway, good night. Good night, baby. So that's a yes.
So we're not.
I played that fifth.
So we're not watching Game of Thrones.
No,
it's over.
Game of Moans. Game of Bones.
Cersei McAllister, whatever her name
Game of Groans.
Oh,
it's over. All right.
Groans.
So Second Amendment.
We
said it at the same time.
So let's talk about the well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. What does that mean to you?
You keep your goddamn hands off my guns. That's what it means.
Right?
All my guns.
All of them. Anytime. How many?
I'm gun crazy.
How many? Hundreds? Thousands?
You know, I'll be honest. I've never owned a handgun.
What?
But I do have BB guns.
Okay. How many of them should you get?
I have 2.
You should have more than that.
I should?
Yeah.
Are you asking how many the law should allow me to have?
The law should allow you to have many more than that.
I think no one should be allowed to have more than 2 guns.
What? You're crazy.
Yep.
That's ludicrous.
You're crazy.
I'm pointing a gun at Tony's head as we...
I don't know what the right answer is. Just put that gun up my temple.
Tony, the answer is everybody gets as many guns as they want. Yeah, you have to say yippee. Everybody gets as many guns as they want.
Dance! Pow, 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 pow.
Oh, is that from Blind Date? Remember that? Bruce Willis? He makes the guy dance?
No, I mean, that's... People have done that in movies.
There's a lot of movies. I think he makes John Larroquette makes him dance in Blind Date.
That's right. That? I was going to say Phil Hartman, but Phil Hartman's actually in that movie for a very small bit because he's like, when she drinks, it drives her wild.
Oh man, I didn't even remember that. That's amazing, Phil Hartman.
That's right. And then he's like, oh, well, I'll get her drunk. And then she goes real nuts.
Which is kind of rapey now. I think they consider that rape now. That whole premise is rape.
Yeah, he had the intention to get her loose.
Should we do a whole podcast about how Blind Date is really sexual assault?
If we do, surprise me. I like a good surprise.
We have the revised episode. It's about the laws of Blind Date. Right, we were
going to talk about the Second Amendment, but now we're just going to talk about Blind Date and the flaws of its premise.
Right, and if you guys haven't seen Blind Date, then pause right now, watch Blind Date for 2 hours. It's a classic.
And come back because you're going to love what we got. It's a real powder keg of comedy and knowledge.
John Larroquette was killer in that movie, wasn't he?
I
remember that.
Because he was her ex.
He's a total lunatic. In a weird way, I was like, I want to be like John Larroquette to any ex-girlfriend who spurns me.
What? Who would ever say, I want to be John?
I want to be like that guy.
He was Dan Fielding, for crying out loud. He was a sleazy.
All right, so let's talk about the history of the Second Amendment because it's fascinating.
I bet it starts with the Bill of Rights.
It does start with the Bill of Rights. And there was a lot of debate over it. A lot of debate over the Bill of Rights. A lot of debate over the Second Amendment, I guess you could say. Back then, it was pretty clear that it was somewhat related to a militia. But things have changed in the world through a long history of Supreme Court cases that we're going to walk through.
Okay.
I mean, do you want to? Do you want to take a walk down memory lane?
I'd love to after dinner.
So in 1837, Georgia was the first state to pass a law banning handguns. Georgia.
Say Georgia.
Georgia passed a law banning handguns, and it was ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court and thrown out.
Oh, that's south of the Mason-Dixie line.
And then in 1865, in a reaction to emancipation, several southern states adopted black codes, which, among other things, forbid black persons from possessing firearms. It's weird that I'm reading something that's
like
called
Jim
black
Crow
persons.
laws?
Yeah, Jim Crow. Black codes, very similar. Before Jim Crow, they called them black codes.
Were Jim Crow laws during Reconstruction?
Yeah. So this was literally right after. They weren't even kind of like subtly doing it. They were just called the black codes.
Yeah, that was pretty direct.
Yeah.
Anti-black laws.
Hey,
wink, wink.
What do we do?
Wink,
with all
wink.
these
You know what I
free
mean.
Black men?
They're called the anti-black laws. Wink, wink,
Yeah.
wink, wink, wink.
Should we?
Now, are those in particular, are those aimed at people of color?
No, of course not. Why would you even say that?
Wink, wink, wink.
Because we call them the black codes.
Right. They actually were originally called the black codes. Wink, wink, wink.
Wink, wink,
But
wink.
they dropped
the wink,
dropped.
wink, wink. They dropped the emojis. In 1871, the National Rifle Association, otherwise known as the NRA, was organized. Their primary goal was improving American civilians' marksmanship in preparation for war. That seems like a
That sounds
valiant,
all right.
totally cool.
It sounds also like bull.
No, at the time it was legit. They were good guys. The NRA was all about marksmanship. It was like, take your son to the range.
Wasn't technically everything a range?
Everywhere is
Back then,
everywhere
like
is-
it's like wherever you hang a target, it's a range.
Yeah.
NRA, National Range Association.
Basically, it was the Range Association. And then in 1927, Congress passed a law banning the mailing of concealable weapons because people were mailing them around.
Mailing weapons.
Yeah, you don't want to.
Can you still mail someone a gun?
No, you cannot.
Not even disassembled?
I don't think you can, actually. I'm not sure, but don't ask me questions.
Yeah,
when you're
can't
not
you
sure
order
that
a
I know
gun
that.
online?
Yeah, I know. Yes, you can. Yes, you
So
can.
yes.
You can order a gun online, yes. So yeah, I was totally wrong.
Okay.
So correction. In 1934 is where it gets interesting. The National Firearms Act of 1934 regulated the manufacture, sale, and possession of fully automatic firearms like submachine guns. This was FDR who passed this as president. And do you remember the 30s? Do you remember how crazy the 30s
Well, I
was?
wasn't alive. I know what I've read, but I heard that they were not as roaring as the 20s.
What? They were roaring.
No, the 30s were pretty depressing.
They were roaring with machine gun fire. John Dillinger, Machine Gun Kelly.
That wasn't
Bonnie
in the
and
roaring
Clyde,
20s? I'm pretty sure
Babyface
that that was
Nelson.
like...
That was the 30s. Ma Barker,
What year was Dillinger killed? I can tell you where he was killed.
John Dillinger was killed in
Outside
the
the
year,
Biograph Theater in Chicago, Illinois.
in the year
1934.
34. Yeah.
Well, let me just say this. So the Depression hit at the beginning of the 1930s, correct?
People started robbing them banks,
That's right.
which is what I would have done.
Oh, well, that I see what you're saying is that the 30s were bad, but in a good way for guns because everyone started just using them to rob people.
Oh, yeah. Robbing a lot of people. Dillinger was famous for having escaped jail twice. And also, I think he had a huge dong.
John Dongan.
Dong.
Do you think Babyface Nelson really had a baby face?
Well, I'm looking at him.
Hey, do you think he had a baby
I
face?
think I'm looking at him right now.
Do you think he had a cute little baby
Actually, I'm looking at him right now. Look at this guy. Is that a baby face? It's kind of a gross old man.
No.
How is that a baby face?
Oh, well, I was looking at the
But they're all
Lindbergh baby.
The Lindbergh baby has a baby face.
I shot the Lindbergh baby!
Don't kidnap me! Get
Yeah,
off of me!
he's not as
Get
much
off
a
of me!
baby face as a ugly face.
Ugly face. I think I'm starting to think baby face
his
was
name-
code word for ugly
He
face.
killed the guy who nicknamed him Ugly Face. Hey,
Here,
look,
the
if
original- hey,
it
fucking
ain't Ugly
Ugly
Face Nelson.
Here's
Pow, 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 pow.
Here's what happened. This is literally like the scene in Goodfellas where Spider walks up to Joe Pesci and he's talking to him, you know, and he's like, or no, when Ray Liotta's like, "You're a clown.
Yeah.
You're a clown.
What do you mean?
How am I ugly? How am I
ugly? Hey, hey, Ugly Face, you're ugly.
What?
Yeah, you're ugly.
Ugly how? Am I like ugly like
in the traditional
sense? Like I disgust you?
Yeah,
like my wife doesn't want to sleep with me, like she's sleeping with the boss?
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much what I was getting at, because your ugly face.
Ha 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 ha! Pop 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 pop! From now on, my name's Babyface. You guys got that?
Sure, Babyface. We got it, Babyface. Hey, take everybody a look. It's Babyface.
Hey, you work for the Chicago Tribune? What's my nickname?
Babyface.
Look me in the ugly. I mean, into my baby face when I say that.
Please, it's Babyface. For all the love of God and everything.
I'm gonna let you live
to me.
because I believe you. Do I look like the Lindbergh baby?
No, I mean you're kind of ugly. Oh no!
Hey! Pop, pop, pop. You work for the Chicago Sentinel, right?
No, I do. You killed my friend.
Oh God! And then there was somebody named Pretty Boy Floyd. Oh, also
Who
ugly.
is also Ugly Boy Floyd.
Okay, so that's how this one went down.
Hey, I got a nickname for you.
Oh yeah, what is it?
Ugly Boy Floyd, because you're so
ugly how?
Like ugly, like you make me want to throw up when I look at you.
Ugly like my wife won't sleep with me? Like my kids run away when I try to hug them?
Ugly like ugly face Nelson.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Pop, 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 pop. Anybody else wanna call me a nickname?
No, you're pretty. You really got a real pretty face.
Pretty Boy Floyd. Hey, you work for the Chicago Sentinel, right? What's my nickname?
It's a Pretty Boy Floyd. You got pretty kissable lips.
Do I look like the Lindbergh baby?
I mean,
pop, pop, pop. Hey, you work for the Chicago Journal, right?
Yeah, you killed my friend. Now I do. And scene and repeat
over and over again. These guys are really ugly. We have to put a link up of how ugly.
Well, we should just say the Lindbergh baby was originally called the Lindbergh man.
The
Lindbergh ugly. The Lindbergh ugly.
Ugly Machine Gun Ugly was reincarnated.
It was named Ugly Lindbergh.
The ugly face Nelson was reincarnated into the Lindbergh baby.
Oh my God. So anyway, lots of people were dying, lots of guns.
Right. So, these were machine gun fire. It was out of control.
Those, what do you call it? Clips. What clips are those?
Tommy guns, baby.
Tommy guns.
Yeah. So Hoover and Roosevelt, Hoover had the FBI and Roosevelt had just started the New Deal. So they started expanding some of their enforcement powers. The Lindbergh baby got kidnapped. Dillinger, Bonnie and Clyde were robbing people. And people were walking around shooting up the city with Tommy guns.
Everybody.
Tommy guns.
Should say it didn't end up going well for most of those people.
Mm-mm. But they had shootouts on the streets. So the National Firearms Act.
You choose a life of crime, you're going to do the time.
Is that a saying?
Yes, sir. Yeah. If I'm not the chief of police, Captain O'Malley.
Oh, he was on the payroll of the Tommy gun guys.
There's a Captain O'Malley.
So the National Firearms Act of 1934 required registration and a tax of $200, which is a lot.
For in the 30s, that was probably like $2,000.
$3,600 in today's dollars. So on all gangster weapons, including Tommy guns and sawed-off shotguns. So the idea was basically there was opposition to it. The NRA actually removed provisions that would have required licensing of handguns back in 1934. But nobody was really bringing up the Second Amendment back then.
Holy macaroni.
No. They basically just wanted to limit, just Tommy guns, just unfettered access to Tommy guns, just shooting up the street.
I feel like most people aren't even aware of the Bill of Rights.
No, we're making them aware.
No, I'm just saying that, like, back then, that was probably like, what? Huh?
Well, I'm sure that the gangsters were probably not too concerned with what was going on. So in the 1930s, they passed that, and eventually there was a big case called the United States versus Miller. This case involved the prosecution of two men with criminal records who were caught with an unregistered and untaxed short-barrel shotgun.
In the case against United States versus Miller, we rule less filling, great taste. Is right?
The Miller High Life. You're just a man who wants to walk around with your criminal record with a short-barreled, sawed-off shotgun to a school. Shouldn't you be allowed to be a man? Miller High Life.
Let's fill it.
Let's fill it.
Great taste.
So these guys, criminals walking around with short-barreled shotguns, the court unanimously upheld the law. It said that a short-barreled shotgun was not the type of weapon that someone serving in a state militia would ordinarily have, and therefore was not protected by the Second Amendment. So back then,
so
what I'm
even
saying
up
is,
until the 30s, they were using a militia as a, I guess the
reference point.
Point.
This is what I'm getting to, Tony. Now you're getting it. Now I believe that was the longest-winded way to get back to what I really wanted to talk about.
What a breakthrough.
What a breakthrough. But I want you to discover these things because you're the audience. And so you're discovering what I am trying to loosely explain, which is that
the Second Amendment is outdated and stupid. It is only in reference to the regards of a militia and arming said militia and defending your home against foreign invaders.
Shut up, libtard.
I'm a cucktard snowflake.
Hey.
Get it right.
Snowflake.
Hey.
I didn't bring a snowflake into my house to get all libtardy and cucktardy.
Hey, you cucktard.
I don't know that that's necessarily true. So I'm going to defend gun owners a little bit on this podcast, maybe, because let's just back up for a second. So yes, so U.S. v. Miller in the 30s, clearly entire Supreme Court history to that point believed that it was related to the militia. So then we go through history. We get a little bit forward in time.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
And then what, Matt?
Well, I mean, a lot of things happen.
What is it, Matt?
No, but I think it's interesting that you...
That I have an opinion that most people seem to agree with?
No. That's true.
Look, if we can just take a moment to discuss that I believe that people have a right to own a weapon.
Me too.
But I don't believe people have a right to own a semi-automatic weapon.
I don't either, and I don't think Scalia did either in Heller, which we're going to get to, which I actually think is fascinating about this whole sort of debate. So up until the 30s in the Supreme Court history, there was no sort of thought that somebody, owning a gun was somehow untethered in any way to the militia. But long story short, 68 was the Gun Control Act, and that was passed after the assassination of Robert F. Kennedy, Dr. Martin Luther King.
He was only killed with like a handgun.
Yeah, but so this was enacted for the purpose of keeping firearms out of the hands of those not legally entitled to possess them because of age, criminal background, or incompetence. It was regulating the imported guns, and it started having record-keeping requirements, and it had a list of banned people. So that was sort of the first step of, kind of cracking down on a certain class of people convicted of felonies, mentally incompetent, drug users. We started to think about who should be allowed to have handguns. And then in the 70s, we had a couple of interesting things happen. The ATF was created to control the illegal use of firearms, but also the NRA had a coup, and they had to rise to power of some dudes who were very into protecting the
what?
There's an NRA coup in the 70s where the sort of, kind of really right-wing arm of it took over and kind of pushed this idea that, the right of an individual to own a gun was unrelated to any sort of military, militia argument.
Okay.
So they started pushing that. There's a lot of lobbying money. And finally, push comes to shove, there was a DC law banning handguns that got challenged. So the NRA,
in Washington, D.C.
The NRA was devoted to gun safety before then. But then in 77, there was a big coup, and they pushed for this new interpretation of the Second Amendment, which gave individuals the right to bear arms, period.
So you can have any guns anytime.
Anytime. And Warren Burger, who was not a liberal, Chief Justice Warren Burger in the 80s, he said something that I think is instructive that everybody forgets. He mocked this individual rights theory of the Second Amendment as a fraud. This was a conservative Supreme Court justice that undid a lot of liberal policies in the 60s and 70s. He was in the 80s.
Oh.
He called this whole individual rights theory a fraud. But the NRA kept pushing, and
Did they pressure him?
They didn't pressure him. They just lobbied Congress. So...
But he dissented, so liberals gave people the right to vote.
Well, he wasn't around when Scalia decided Heller, which we'll get to, which is 2008, seminal case. But so they basically mocked this idea of a living constitution, and they reinterpreted the Second Amendment a little bit. And Ronald Reagan came to power, who was originally a gun control advocate, but then when he came to power through support of a lot of conservatives, he became a big gun rights enthusiast.
I remember seeing a picture of him holding a rifle above his head, wearing a cowboy hat and like a fringy jacket.
Yeah. So basically it became this reinterpretation that there is a clear long lost proof. This is what Orrin Hatch said on a subcommittee meeting in the 1980s. Long lost proof that the Second Amendment of our Constitution was intended to, as an individual right of the American citizen, to keep and carry arms in a peaceful manner for protection of himself, family, and his freedoms, which I agree with. Even if that wasn't totally true, I'd be okay with that. But then that theory became the law of the land in a case called DC versus Heller in 2008. The Supreme Court embraced this individual right, and Scalia authored it, and he basically said that the right of an individual to carry handguns couldn't be banned because handguns are the popular weapon chosen by Americans for self-defense, and therefore their prohibition is invalid. Because
in what context does that argument make any sense?
So
that's the
argument is
we can't ban the gun that most people carry around to defend themselves.
Well, actually, in a weird way, I'm going to get to why I may like that argument.
It's circular logic.
I know, but I may like that argument because it's going to limit some of these crazy automatic weapons.
Okay.
Some of these sodomy automatic weapons. So we'll get to that.
But his argument, though, pertains specifically to handguns. Everybody should get one.
Right. Essentially. Not everybody should get one, but the idea that you can have them. So Scalia basically didn't decide everything, but he basically reframed the notion that individuals have a right to what would commonly be defensive weapons in the home. Even though, like for hundreds of years of case law, we didn't think that they were unrelated to the militia. Now he was basically saying that right. And he said something very interesting. He said that the first clause of the statement, a well-regulated militia being necessary, he said that was called perforatory.
It was perforated.
Perforatory clause.
In perpetuity.
He said that it didn't have any meaning, essentially. He basically said that he called it a throat clearing for the second part of the amendment. He was basically saying the militia thing was just like, everybody gets to have a gun.
That's the sound I make when I clear my throat. Is militia.
Yeah. Militia being necessary for friction.
Militia.
Yeah. He actually said that.
Well, you ever see that Star Wars that nobody likes? Mm-hmm. The first one, The Phantom Menace. Mm-hmm. He was one of those racist stereotype characters. He was the Misa Jar Jar Binks. He was the king of those people. He was the Misa Jar Jar Binks, blah, 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 because he was jowly.
Yeah, that's what you think of Scalia as. I think he was a very smart guy. And he also went to those music concerts with Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
She didn't really like him.
She must have. She went to all the concerts with him.
No, she said, I didn't like him.
She did not say that.
Quote unquote.
She did not say that.
Yeah.
So hold on. So I wanted to get back to this. So he basically said that partially, there's this notion that it's the defense against tyranny, but also a lot of scholars have now redove into the original argument on the, the framers of the Constitution, that militia was essentially every able-bodied man. So therefore, if it was referring to a militia, it was basically saying every person.
So does it say person or does it just say men?
No, it says a well-regulated militia, the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The point is that it's gotten us into a weird place where we now have completely unfettered. There was another case called McDonald, which applied to the states too, which makes it a lot harder for them to restrict gun access.
Are you a gun nut, Matt?
You know how many guns I got in here. I got so many guns.
I wish you guys could see. There's wall-to-wall guns.
There's so many
the chairs
guns.
we're sitting on, the legs are made out of guns.
There's so many guns. But Scalia did say that what's interesting about it is he did say that, it doesn't mean you can't regulate automatic weapons and all that other stuff, which I think is in a weird way gives you hope for.
So his whole argument was saying that you should still regulate the possession?
That you can still regulate. Not that you could, but that you...
Well, of course you can still regulate it, but...
Well, no, the NRA doesn't, there's some people in the NRA say, no, we don't want any regulations.
No, well, they believe it is restricting their freedoms. However, I think that with that freedom, there needs to be safety in laws enacted and in place.
So there were attempts. That's what I want to talk about. There were a couple of interesting attempts. There was an attempt at these smart guns. Did you know about that?
Those are the ones that you can only fire if they sense your hand.
Right. So there were a couple of attempts at these smart guns, and Smith & Wesson was going to do one, and the NRA basically destroyed their company.
They destroyed Smith & Wesson?
Yeah, through an advertising campaign, through their...
They're still around, aren't they?
I think they basically...
They folded?
Tanked them. Yeah, they basically tanked Smith & Wesson. And another company tried to do it recently, but so there was a law in New Jersey that said that if you create these smart guns, then all the other guns that aren't smart guns are going to have to be confiscated.
Well, I was just reading something interesting that in Australia, the laws they have there's several types of gun permit ownership that you have to apply for. There's a type A, a type B, a type C, a type D.
Right.
They're each different classifications. There's one is a historical collector's permit.
Okay.
One is a permit where it's recreational shooting.
Okay.
And in order to have so if you own the permit that is only for collector's items, you can never fire those guns. They can only sit and live in a case, and that's it.
You can't even fire an 1800s little cannonball thing at anybody.
No, it would also probably shatter the barrel because it's so brittle. But
stand still in
order to hold that gun license.
As I stick that little mortar thing in
right.
there.
It's this makes gun shooting unfun.
Stand still.
No. Wait, don't quit running back and forth. I gotta shoot
you.
Hold on, I'll be ready in 20 minutes.
Hold on. Honey, I need some gun Viagra.
Here. Pack.
I drank a little too much.
All right. Pow! Oh, I missed. All right, hold on.
I can't get it up.
It was really hard. If you wanted to kill somebody with a gun back then,
you really needed to.
You really needed to surprise them.
Yeah. You had to sneak up on
surprise. Pow. That's how they shot.
I honestly feel like I could take a gunshot from the 1800s.
Are you stupid?
No, I'm serious.
Those were metal balls, the size
they were
of
BB guns,
like a Whopper.
like
a Whopper, like you'd have at the movie theater.
I think we should do an episode where we do a duel with 1800s weapons,
but firing milk duds
at each other.
Yeah. Open mouth.
You shot me
in the mouth
with a BB gun.
Boy, was it good! So
delicious.
In Australia, you can't have a gun permit. Unless in 1 year's time, you compete in, I believe it's 6 to 12 competitions. You have to actively be a sports shooter to have an active gun license, or you can't own them. You have to prove that you're I'm a sportsman. I have this gun for recreational purposes. And
hey, fella, excuse me.
G'day. Hello, mate.
G'day, mate.
Hey, mate.
Hey, how the koalas doing?
Yeah, they're wicked googly.
I see you got
There, wicked bonza.
I see you got a little bit of a hang-on Jiminy over there.
Yeah, you're a real dodgy bodger, ain't you?
Nah, what
You're a real dodgy bodger.
Yeah, you bodger yourself. What you doing with that handgun, wanker?
Well, I was going to go buy lunch for my wife. I was going to take her around in my Chevy.
Can you show me your spotting license?
More what?
Your spotting license. If you ain't spotting with the gun, what are you doing with it?
Are you daft?
You daft prick. You got to be shooting wallabies for a year.
You're off, you rocker.
No. It's the new government rules, mate.
Get off my land.
Ever since they showed
Get
up,
off my land.
Ever since they showed up every school in Australia and we banned the guns, we haven't had any problems. You going to cause some problems?
The Great Wallaby Revolt of 1917.
The Wallaby Revolt. It was the end of everything.
Wallabies and kangaroos.
Oh, they crossed those picket lines.
LA.
They crossed them picket lines.
LA.
We had to call in the Wallaby scabs.
I really love the way they put an R on things.
I don't know how. I was doing Cockney that whole time.
Hello, mate. Hiya there.
I was struggling to get out of my.
You kind of always end in a question.
Question mark.
What was that?
That was your wallaby gun going off.
That was a wallaby.
Wait, I wanted to get
wicked wallaby.
I wanted to get back to the Second Amendment.
Anyway, what I said may or may not have been true.
So I wanted to get back. So basically, Scalia's point was that it doesn't protect weapons not typically possessed by law-abiding citizens, such as fucking short-barreled shotguns and all kinds of semi-automatic weapons. So I think in a weird way, he's opened the door for a conversation about, okay, fine, everybody gets to have a normal self-defense weapon, right?
Okay.
Like, why can't we just stick to like non-super
Non-bred.
But so I've got a cool story that I want to.
I'll be the judge.
There was a time where, because a lot of people who are gun advocates who say, well, we may have to rise up in tyranny, against the tyranny. So there was something called the Battle of Athens where they actually did rise up in tyranny.
Athens, Georgia.
Athens, Tennessee, mofo.
Oh, I knew it was one of those.
Did you know about the Battle of Athens?
No.
Yeah, southern state. A lot of anti-secesh people, but a lot of secesh. Were you secesh or anti-secesh?
I'm a yank.
You're anti-secesh.
No, because I like to yank my wiener.
So is that what yanks were?
Yeah.
We actually thought that meant,
gentlemen, pull them out. We're going in. And it was just they'd run at the Confederates with just wank in there.
I would have folded up shop.
Like, I got cum in my eye.
I would have retreated very quickly.
There's cum in my eye.
I would have retreated very quickly against that. I have a big fear of that.
Herpes simplex 3.
In the
herpes
eye?
of the eye.
Oof, it's the worst kind. So there was a political machine in Tennessee in McMinn County. This guy, Paul Cantrell, scumbag. He was a vote grabber.
His last name was Scumbag?
Paul Cantrell, the scumbag. He was a vote grabber, vote stealer, and a bunch of GIs. No, he grabbed the ballot box.
Grab him by the pussy.
He grabbed the ballot box by the pussy. He was a ballot box grabber. Basically, he was running roughshod like a little political machine, and then all his GIs got back to Tennessee, just served in World War II, and they were like high on ethics at the time.
Dude, don't bogart the ethics.
Don't bogart it, man. But this guy Cantrell, he was just making sure that black people couldn't vote, stuff like that. So the GIs tried to stop him, and they had armed deputies to make sure that the votes that they wanted, the scumbag Tennessee guys. So these GIs took up arms, like
they were ex-military,
and took up like militia. It was a militia battle over these ballot boxes. So they besieged the jail. There were 2,000 people in a little battle in Tennessee over tyranny. So that's what people use when they talk about like, hey, man.
I don't think the people should, well, see, now you're getting into like all sorts of like tangential hypotheticals.
Hypotheticals.
Like, should we all have guns so in case the government decides to enact martial law, that we can rise up against them?
Hey, Tony, you know the battle. You know that Battle of Athens Part 2 is coming up any minute now. Any minute. We got to rise up.
Let me ask you this. Do you think, and this is a serious question now, do you think that at any point in American history from this point moving forward, there will be another civil war?
If we don't do anything about the Second Amendment, as it stands now, we have 300 million guns dispersed in this country. 300
million guns are on the streets.
Okay, and I don't have one of them.
Okay.
How many you got?
I got 2 BB guns.
So, I feel really worried because I got none. You got 2 BB guns.
I can like get you a flesh wound.
Fleshlight.
Oh, I'd have to be like standing real close for you.
Problematic.
It would hurt.
Oh, you know what's coming too is that nobody can sue the gun dealers anymore because of the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act.
What does that entail?
Oh, yeah. That was an act to prohibit civil liability brought against arms dealers. Unfortunately, George.
Were there a lot of cases that people were suing because someone was killed by a gun?
Yes, the city of Chicago, Richard Daley sued gun makers basically because of all the gun
Daley
craziness.
1 or Daley 2?
Daley 2. And then in Connecticut, they sued.
Did he win?
I don't know. Maybe. I'm not sure. But in 2000, Smith & Wesson, that was part of the assault weapons ban. So Bill Clinton settled with them, and they were going to require, they made all these requirements on gun dealers. And then basically in 2005, New York City passed a law allowing lawsuits against gun manufacturers that didn't voluntarily implement these gun measures. And then boom, 2005, the assault weapons ban didn't get extended. 2004, we had an assault weapons ban that expired. And as part of that deal, George W. Bush, thanks to Wayne LaPierre of the NRA, helped push through this law that basically said you couldn't sue any of these gun manufacturers.
So they basically are above the law.
I am the law.
Steven Seagal.
Or is that
the law.
Or is that Stallone? I am the law. I am the law. Hey, you're that guy. Hey, are you that guy? You're the guy. Do the voice. Do the voice. Rob Schneider. You gotta love Rob Schneider. I thought we could end with some dumb gun laws.
Dumb
gun stories.
I haven't heard one that sounds like it's a good idea.
How about dumb gun stories?
Okay.
A Florida man, of course in Florida, a Florida man was shot by his dog in 2013.
He was on his couch and it stepped on it and shot him.
Nope. In his truck. He was just driving and his dog kicked his 380 pistol, shot him in the leg.
Didn't have the safety on.
Yeah.
Safety? Safety's for pussies.
Yeah. His dog was like,
Hey, Scruffers. Hey.
Huh?
Hey, Scrufford. Pow!
Oh, Scruffers, don't shoot the hand that feeds you. You gonna jerk off on me again?
Oh no, that's what he said.
That's why he did it.
He learned how to speak so he can say, "Stop jerking off on me."
And then, Jose Canseco. You know about Jose Canseco, Major League Baseball player?
I don't know if he can shoot, but he can sure as hell hit.
He shot his finger off.
He shot him up. He shot himself up with some
steroids. Yeah, he shot his needle finger.
We know he can shoot things.
Yeah, we know he can shoot things. You know what he said after he shot his own finger off? He said, "You really only need 4 fingers on each hand to do everyday things." Canseco kind of sounds like Stallone.
You know, I sat behind him on a Spirit Airlines flight.
Was he juicing on the plane?
No, but I felt like, man, he's on a Spirit Airlines flight.
Things really took a turn. He was the Bash brother.
That's right.
He was like
twins. They're twins.
They're twins. They both hit home runs.
Oh, one was much better than the other.
Yeah, McGuire. Was he also on steroids though?
No,
remember, Canseco called him out on it.
What was Jose's brother's name?
Mark Consuelos.
Canseco.
Bobby Canseco.
Are you drunk?
No, Ozzie
Canseco.
Ozzie Canseco.
Oh.
He was on the White Sox. He was like Billy and Cal
Ozzie
Ripken.
Guillen.
No, there was an Ozzie. Remember Billy Ripken had the base bat?
Okay. No, I.
That was a card. There was a baseball card that was very valuable.
It said, because the bat.
Yeah, because the bat was backwards. Yeah. Anyway, so Canseco shot himself. And then here's one. There was a guy in Georgia sitting in his car at a gas station. He attempted to put his gun in his holster and shot himself in the penis.
Good. Steve's nuts.
No, but he removed his clothes to find out that the 45 bullet had exited out of his buttocks.
What?
You know that guess how many men have shot themselves in the penis in the last 5 years?
2.
6.
Yeah. It exited out of his butthole?
Yeah. I mean, that's probably the best you could hope for.
Well, you said buttocks, but did you mean right out of his ass?
That would have been a great shot. Just like
through his pee hole.
We've got luck. Hey, Goose, we've got luck. We've got luck.
These pipes are clean.
I mean, you've got a clean urethra if you can.
You never close your eyes anymore when I shoot your dick.
You have to
know it, baby. But your butthole is where the bullet is leaving. You lost that bullet feeling, and now you're really bleeding. No, he's bleeding.
I thought your dick was healing.
No, he's bleeding.
Oh.
No, I'm fucking bleeding.
Now my body's bleeding.
And now the feeling's gone. Gone. Do I still have a dick?
Did I crash and burn?
Yeah, Goose.
You get her.
We got him, Goose.
I can't. My dick hurts. I just shot it.
Hey, Slider.
Yeah.
You stink.
It's because I shot myself in the ass.
Yeah. I don't have control of my bowels anymore.
Because I shot myself in the butthole.
Because I'm wearing a colostomy bag.
That's the part that they never show. They're like, oh, man, this guy's so badass. He shot himself in the dick and it went right out his ass.
They didn't show him on the volleyball court all sweaty with a colostomy bag.
No, guys, I can't play volleyball anymore.
Why'd you die for that shot? Because I didn't want to get sand in my bag.
You don't know how painful it is when my colostomy bag gets sand in it.
It's like a kidney stone.
It's really painful.
Oh my gosh. Hey,
yeah.
We got some more of these.
Oh yeah, there's a couple more fun ones. Yeah, so this was in the Civil War. The Ohio lawyer Clement Vallandigham.
The guy named Clement shouldn't own anything.
No, he was the lawyer. He defended Thomas McGeehan, who was accused of shooting Tom Myers in a bar fight.
All related.
Vandingham's defense was that Myers accidentally shot himself while drawing a pistol from the kneeling position, and to convince the jury, he decided to reenact and demonstrate the theory.
And he shot himself again.
He shot himself in the face.
In court.
In court.
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I submit that Mr.
Exhibit. Did he die in court?
No. He died the next day.
Did he?
Yeah, he did.
Case dismissed. In light of the evidence, case dismissed.
I like that he like made it through court, trying to pretend like, he was fine. I'm totally fine. I'm just trying to explain the theory. And his client got acquitted though.
Oh. So the lawyer shot himself.
Yeah, and died. But then the client was acquitted only to die 4 years later.
By demonstrating what the lawyer did.
So to wrap things up, basically, we're in a weird place because everybody is freaking out over guns. We're freaking out. And we've had a horrible rash of mass shootings, and I hate what's happening, and I hate that, politicians are afraid to do anything about it for fear of blowback from conservative groups.
Look, I think anyone who's rational believes that no one needs to have semi-automatic weapons. I believe people deserve the right to have firearms.
Oh, we're going to get a lot of brownie points from our right-wing viewers.
However, I think that without curtailing your freedom, I think there needs to be regulation that it makes it very difficult to get a weapon. But once you get it, and you have to prove that you are a responsible gun owner. And
how does one prove that, though?
I think that there needs to be checkpoints. Like the thing I told you with the Australians, you have to actively show that you take safety courses every so often, and you are actively showing that you care about gun safety. And
what about the fact that, like, I have this theory that everybody's on edge. Like, it would take 3 like annoying things to happen in a day for me to shoot up.
Just 3 things.
Yeah, like if I got a ticket in the morning, if I went outside in the morning and I got a ticket, I'd be like on edge and pissed, but not ready to kill anybody. But then if I got pulled over at a stop sign for a ticket, maybe kill somebody. But then I go to the Verizon store and like they can't fix my phone. It's over.
Wow.
And I'm a regular person.
Real short fuse.
Yeah, but I don't think I have a short fuse. I'm a regular person.
Look, I like shooting guns. I've gone to the gun range here in Los Angeles, and there's some really funny targets that you can get. You can shoot zombies. But outside the context of sport and recreation, like, I can't see hunting requiring anything. There's no sport to blowing an animal away. There's no reason.
Hey, Dillinger, it's me, ugly face. I mean, pretty face.
Ugly boy Floyd.
I mean, pretty boy. You want to go shoot some deer with our Tommy guns?
Yeah. Ready?
Wait,
I don't think it's dead.
Wait. That's no fun. Let's give him a 3-second. Let's give him a 10-second head start to get his ugly yellow keister off my property. 1, 2, 10. I'm such a sportsman.
I feel like we've really just changed minds. And,
no, here's the thing: you're never going to change minds. I think most people. I think most people believe they have the right to self-defense, and maybe it's a natural right.
I think they do too, but I don't think you need a AK-47.
Right. And I think that's the problem, right? People think anybody who tries to make an argument that it needs to be limited is like, oh, you liberal. Whatever.
No.
And it's like, hey, man, I'm not really that liberal. I just think that, like, if you want to have a gun, like, have a gun. If you want to have 30 guns,
no.
Look,
see, that's why I feel like I do divert from a lot of, I skew very liberal.
Yeah.
However, I grew up with guns. My dad owned guns. He was responsible. We'd go to a gun range.
Your dad was Ugly Face
Sam.
He had to shoot somebody to get his nickname.
Ugly Face Sam II.
His nickname went from ugly to mediocre face. I remember they called him mediocre
average face.
Average face.
Right. It's like, hey,
He was like, I know nobody's going to call me pretty, but I'm going to put a gun to your head.
They call me Handsome Tony.
No, he's calling you handsome.
I call me Handsome Tony. Look, I grew up with weapons. I was taught responsibly how to hold them and respect them and know that they are implements of death and danger. And I think that, like you said, it's fine for people to own a gun, but it is not fine for people to own 30 or 40.
Yeah, why is that such a big deal? Why is it such a crazy thing to get to?
Right. What possibly could you do with all those weapons?
I know. Why do you need a bump? By the way, bump stocks are going out.
Well, I looked up what those were, and let me tell you, it's pretty scary.
I thought bump stock was a stock that you invested in to help you get laid.
I thought it was cocaine.
You thought it was bumps. Hey, both of us had a total misinterpretation.
I was like, hey, you got
stock.
some bump stock in the kitchen?
Yeah. I was
Maybe
like,
we'll go
wait, I invest in this stock?
snort it off your buttock.
I thought it was a way to get laid. Bump
No.
stock.
Nope. It's coke.
It's some sort of
Woo, party
time. So, I wanted to leave us on this. This is one last funny story. You remember that show? That show? Is it a show? A movie? Tombstone. Oh.
Good. What you want on your tombstone? Pepperoni.
Yeah, you know that town, Tombstone?
I'm your Huckleberry.
Well, they actually do events in Tombstone.
Reenactments.
Mm-hmm. Guess what happened?
Somebody got killed. Who put live ammunition in a reenactment?
Brandon Lee's stuntman.
Ugh.
Oof, the crow. Oof, that curse. Yeah, so this guy. He didn't die. He didn't die, but one actor shot another actor in the leg because he didn't have his weapon checked before the OK Corral show. Woo, boy!
I'm your Huckleberry.
That's for sleeping with my wife, Dick.
What? I thought you said it was an accident. Yeah.
I mean, you know that's what happens when there's live ammo at an acting scene.
Yeah. Somebody slept with
somebody's wife.
Look, you should never aim a gun at anybody.
No.
Unless you are a officer of the law and you... I feel like that's another whole bag of worms.
Oh, we did. We already got into that already.
Anyway, well, it started off really ridiculous and then it got real heavy.
Yeah, no, we were trying to keep it ridiculous. The point is that guns are ridiculous. And just keep one in your house and don't bring it out and don't pull it on anybody at the OK Corral.
I really think a conversation, more than a conversation, needs to happen. I think something
it happened in the 30s when they were machine gun kellying us with ugly baby face.
Right. We've seen that regulation and laws can happen.
Yeah.
However,
and they didn't try to take away the guns then.
Nobody wants to take your guns. They want to make sure that everyone's safe. And I think that is a responsible outlook and policy to try and enact.
Yeah.
Anyways.
In Texas, no, I think it's Idaho. You only have to be 14 to get a gun, though. That's cool.
Great. I want a 14-year-old with a sawed-off shotgun.
Yeah, baby.
Well, what a great episode, huh?
Yeah, uplifting. Ooh. Fun time.
All right, guys.
Subscribe on iTunes or wherever else.
Check us out on Twitter.
Yeah.
What's our Twitter?
Legally Insane Pod. He doesn't like our Twitter handle.
No, it's too busy.
You know what? I have a friend who runs Twitter. She'll fix it.
My Twitter is at TOEKNEESAM. You can follow me there. You can check me out on Instagrams and you can look us up. What's your Twitter?
Matt Ritter 1.
Ugh, too complicated.
Somebody's going to I'll fix that. Our Twitter friend will fix it.
I didn't want any other Matt Ritters to get it.
Yeah,
Matt Ritter was taken, so you had to become
We'll fix it. We'll fix it later.
All right, guys. We'll catch you next time. This has been I've been Tony Sam. This is Matt Ritter. We'll see you next time on Legally Insane.